With that picture of Mercedes is also Sean McLean in the picture. Hi, Sean. And Sean, can you make the expression that you made in all of my wedding pictures? I thank you for something, but that really sums it up.
7 years of friendship.
Trey, if you're in here, you're an asshole. But you're our asshole. Thank you for that. Lance, thank you for all of the entertainment. I think there are still people in your squadron waiting for their mail order brides. That's great. He can convince, I don't know how, but he convinces people of just the oddest things, and that was probably the best. Most of you don't know him, but to Johnny Mann and Brian Stewart, thank you for showing us a way to leave Minot early. You may have to almost die or go crazy, but you can leave early. This picture, I'm sad, isn't up. There's one of me giving Colonel Holloway the stink eye, and it's spectacular. But I have to say, even though I look like that in almost all of our group pictures, that's not how I felt about the squadron, for the most part. On the whole, I've enjoyed working with everybody in the 42nd and the greater missile wing. I'm not going to discuss my former commanders. There were good ones and there were bad ones, but none of them are here except for Zach Jones, and he doesn't count because I upgraded commander the month after I upgraded him, so... You know. To all my deputies, thank you. You all seem to be on course to do better things than me. Even Jerome made it to the shop. Though I have noticed over the last 4 or 5 months that some of you have developed behaviors that are distressingly similar to me on alert. That's probably not a good thing. Colonel Folds and Colonel Holloway is also responsible for this. I'm actually a little annoyed with you. I started using baseball analogies, and I haven't played the game since I was 12. Lastly, to the people I've worked with in the PRP office for the last year, you guys have been great. I've never had the chance before this to work with NCOs day in and day out on a constant basis. I mean, it's different with the facility manager. And I have to say, if the dynamic of our office isn't the norm for officers and NCOs, it should be. I'm sure there are other people that probably should be thanked, but I either couldn't come up with something clever or I couldn't come up with a good picture, which is silly. Or I simply forgot about you. Anyone's offended, or wants to discuss their inclusion or exclusion, I'll be at Oscar, so you can call me at 723-3991. Now I have something to say before I get to the fun part. Yes, I have a soapbox. Mike's collapsed under me, which will be par for the day. Like I said, I have something to say. Actually, it's going to annoy the heck out of me. I'm a deeply flawed individual. I've overwritten the HDA on the first day of code change. I pulled the crew log archive disks in the middle of it archiving twice. I failed the UO test on the first CCE I ever went through. I think I should still have the LFA to prove it. I've actually had surprisingly few eval errors. But the worst one didn't even end up on my record, and Patrick, I'm so sorry. Worst of all, I've really done next to nothing to try to fix the things that are wrong with this place. And honestly, it's in large part because I have no idea how. It's a good day. I've been called a warrior, or I hate being called a warrior. Pet peeve. I despise people using the phrase, my Air Force. They didn't pay for it, it's not theirs. I could go on at length about how the Air Force should ban PowerPoint because current practice is atrocious, and I'm obviously right there with everybody. There are any number of things that irk me, and if any of you have talked to me, you're well aware of that. But today I'm going to address something that I think kind of lies at the heart of a lot, if not all of our issues in missiles. And what that is perfection. Perfection is not a goal. It's not a standard. It's a fantasy, it's a pipe dream, it's an ideal. If perfection is the standard, then nothing else is acceptable. It creates a culture where problems are hidden, mistakes are covered up, all scrutiny is avoided because drawing attention to anything will lead to harsh consequences. Even worse, this attitude seeps into every aspect of a culture. So everything from driving to checking boxes has to reflect this zero defects mentality. Pulled this from the literature, and it states that the results of a zero defects mentality can include careerism, reduced motivation, stifled innovation. Soldiers will feel neither empowered by their successes nor accountable for their failures. Not my words. Now you might say, well, maybe we could accept some risk when driving, but when dealing with nuclear weapons, it's unacceptable. This is wrong. There's no way to eliminate risk. If only because we have a human element in our job, there will always be that opportunity for error, and we don't want to remove that human element. Yet at the same time, this human element is what lets us get better at our job. It allows for improvement. The key is to change our approach to how we deal with risk. This can be done by creating a learning organization. The primary aspect of this kind of organization is allowing failure. I'm not saying coddling people. It does mean ensuring that when people screw up, they're not going to be hammered. Like I said, LOC for failing a CCE test. The failure was enough. Instead, they'll review what they've done, why they did what they did, all the steps they could have taken, and it will be left at that. You have to realize that learning doesn't take place in a punitive environment. We already do some aspects of this, and in certain respects, we've gotten better over my 4 years here. The best trainer rides provide an opportunity to make mistakes and look at them right when you're making them and see from all angles why you did what you did, how you can not do what you're going to do, and those tend to stick with you for 3 or 4 years, at least. I'd also say a couple years ago when codes switched to doing different kinds of training, either just system-based, or they tried different things, and some of them didn't work, but just that they were doing different slides, people actually paid attention, people got more out of it as opposed to just the same dried slides from time after time. As important as all that, as important as that when mistakes happen, everyone knows about them. Right now, we do this a little bit with high missed questions and trainer errors during classroom. And honestly, that's really the only truly valuable part of classroom right now is those lessons learned from what other people have screwed up. Yet so much more is not passed along because we won't talk about the things that we've screwed up. Because perfection culture doesn't allow for people to admit their mistakes. So at best, you get commanders talking to their deputies, but it never leaves that little bubble. It never disseminates across the whole organization. Another major issue is that a lot of times we blame crew members when it isn't their fault. It's poor design with either the equipment or the checklist. When I was in Vandenberg, we were told, doing this for 50 years. You can't improve the checklist. Anybody that ran or had to load red keys 2 or 3 or 4 years ago, compared to how the checklist is now, you can improve the checklist. Another example, the hold-off and the short command used to be right next to each other in the menu. People picked up errors for sending the wrong one when all you have to do is split them up. It's never going to happen, at least not, or if it does happen, it really is the crew member's fault as opposed to just missing by one. Our shutdown checklist. We're good at shutdown in spite of our checklist, not because of it. I mean, when was the last time you actually read it as you were processing it? Really, it should just say, call, shift load restart, top, left, right, trash cans, on down, you all know it. And when you have to make a decision, it's bold or it's colored or something to let you know you have to make a decision, but not all of what it is. I mean, it has to be somewhere, but it shouldn't be the checklist we're running. Like I said, some things have improved. Red keys, the hold off and the short. The problem with all this is all these changes are top down, or even the SKL. But like I said, all these changes are top down with really no input from us. And we're the ones who are actually operating the equipment. And even when something comes down that is a good idea. I mean, the SKL is a great idea. It hasn't been run through how a crew member is actually going to handle it, which leads to all sorts of early failures. that it would have been avoidable if we started with crew members, or at least passed through them before it was implemented. It also doesn't help that any attempt to improve things by a crew member gets lost in a Kafkaesque mess, and may or may not be seen 15 TO changes from now, which we might get to. What I'm saying, I guess, is we need to create a learning culture. Perfection doesn't allow this, because once you arrive at perfection, there's nowhere to go. Learning culture is always improving, always finding new and better ways to do things. And that's, oh my God. But, thank you. I've always wanted to get up on a soapbox. It wasn't quite the rant I was hoping for, but it'll do. One of the last few things I'll share is that in my time up here, I've developed a few philosophies on how to cope with Minot. I'm not going to share all of them, but I'm going to share the last one I've settled on, which is this. Don't be an asshole. But if you're going to be an asshole, at least be an asshole with a purpose. Now, for those who've gone on alert with me, the one thing I do is read a lot, and I mean a lot. Because of that, I had a list of books, but now obviously I don't, and I'd like to highlight two. First is Catch-22. Outside of getting to make major jokes, it highlights the lack of hope in dealing with the Air Force quite well. I mean, Heller was in the Air Force, and it's classic. The other one is a book called Boyd by Robert Coram. It kind of illuminates what the Air Force was, and I think what the Air Force is, and how a small group of not particularly high rank managed to change some things, and how that can be effective in spite of not having stars on your shoulder. And I have to tell you, part of why I'm getting out of the Air Force, and part of it's my wife's a doctor, and we're pursuing her career, not mine, but part of it is I'm not John Boyd, and I can't stay in the Air Force if that's not what I'm going to do. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here and for serving. I hope something I said was worthwhile. I'm sorry for wasting a lot of your time, but and I won't stand between you and dessert any longer.
Completion